Salish elder and activist and all-around incredibly wonderful person who I have known since I was probably a teenager, Kelly White, to come up and do a land acknowledgement and welcome to us to this unceded Coast Salish territory that we're standing on right now. And Kelly would like to invite everyone to come up behind us here. She's going to do a song, and she'd like us all to come up and stand with her while she does the song. Okay. So come on up, everyone.
Okay. It's a great honor to be with you all.
It's an honor to be with you.
Honor to have you here, Kelly.
It's a great honor. Haichka, H-A-Y-L, C-M, C-S-O-L, C-I-M. In our language, in the Salish nation, is a greeting where it's an honor to be in your aura, and C-S-O-L, C-I-M, and the great spirit within you. So with great humble, our people, it's a great pleasure and honor to be here to acknowledge the spirit of all good and strength for the community with our new group, Ecosocialist. And in that manner, I'd like to offer the honor song of our Salish nation, Peace and Prayer Anthem for the strength of the families, the youth, elders, tiny tots and teens, all genres, all ages of the Vancouver people. And the country is desperate for this party and in demand and well needed, and I'm honored to be here to witness and participate the highest honor for the Eco group. Please join us in our humble peace and prayer song for the strength of all our nations, not Samat, we are one. Oh, participants of this new party, and we wish the best of the best to all the ones that belong to the earth and that the earth belongs to our guidance. And we're thankful for the spirit guides for the creation of this new party. In the highest of your honor, thank you for the humbleness and the honor of your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone, and thank you so much to Kelly for that beautiful welcome. I'm going to cry. I'd like to welcome Jeff Berner. He's going to give a little talk now.
Hello. Thanks, Alana. Thank you, Kelly White, for welcoming us. I've been an admirer of Kelly White and her activism work since the 90s. I know I'm a settler, not invited to this land by its original peoples. I know I've got a lot of work to do here to get right with Indigenous people and my own conscience. For me, helping to start the BC Ecosocialists is part of that work. So, here we go. This is it. I'm Jeff Berner. I'm a Jewish folk singer, writer, and activist. I was born and raised in Vancouver, BC. I'm here as a member of the board of Canada's newest party, the BC Ecosocialists, and I have the honor and daunting responsibility of having been asked by the others on the board to be the first to do a speech. Some of you know who I am. I've played in bars, cafes, folk festivals, and punk rock squats. I've played many times for the people at marches, protests, and on picket lines all over the world. I haven't been everywhere in BC, but I've been more places than most people. From Weimar to Haida Gwaii to Fort St. John to Prince George to Golden to the Okanagan to the Gulf Islands to Vancouver Island to Suantula. When I sing, I try to openly share my culture and my soul with people. When I do that, I find that people are moved to share things with me. And in this way, we build friendship. So here's what my friends tell me everywhere I go. Things are getting worse, and nobody in power seems to want to do anything about it. My friends in Weimar near Nelson showed me how the NDP Green government is set on logging their precious watershed for only $1 million worth of timber. Yeah, their NDP MLA ran for office promising to protect their water. They are devastated by Michelle Mungle's lies. Shame. My friends on the Gulf Islands tell me the fishery there is nearly finished because of poor management, fish farms, and warming waters, and what licenses remain mostly belong to Jimmy Pattison, the evil billionaire who Premier John Horgan likes to give bear hugs to. My friends in Coston in the Similkameen Valley tell me about the struggles of small farmers to stay afloat when everything is set up in favor of the big corporate Roundup spraying agribusinesses. And they tell me about the routine and well-known financial, physical, and sexual abuse of workers hired to pick the crops in a province run by the NDP, a party that was once founded to give workers power. What a cruel joke that history has become. Everywhere, my friends who are resource workers shrug bitterly as they tell me what it's like to have to leave your family, your home, for weeks at a time because the man camps are the only place they can make enough money to keep their homes. Traveling to make a living myself, I've anxiously choked as I rode through the endless smoke of the climate catastrophe wildfires, and I've spoken to people who live in the woods who tell me about the terrible mismanagement of BC's forests, astoundingly unwise practices of clear-cutting old growth, mass herbicide spraying, and tightly spaced tree farms practically designed to fall to disease or fire. I went up and played a benefit outside Fort St. John against Site C Dam. The NDP and Greens try to gaslight those people, but we know the NDP and Greens promised to stop Site C and LNG. We have the video footage. How cynical and awful do you have to be to betray a promise like that and then pretend you never said any such thing? It's hard to imagine for ordinary people who don't lie for a living. My Indigenous friends tell me of the lies and the ongoing colonialism and racism they face. Their dark and sophisticated, dry humor reminds me so much of our Jewish humor in the face of anti-Semitism. They mock the obviously insincere lip service that the NDP Green government pays to reconciliation and Indigenous rights, all the while helping industry continue to snatch and despoil more land. And this government continues to do the same to Indigenous children, snatching them into a foster care system that is bigger and just as abusive as the residential school system that these official people now make costless apologies about and cry crocodile tears over. It's disgusting. My friends who are frontline workers and drug users tell me of the horror of what the press calls the opioid crisis or the fentanyl crisis. We know what it really is, an artificial racist crisis created by the war on drugs, which the NDP Green government refuses to call off. They refuse to call off the war on drugs, consigning thousands of people to lonely deaths out of sheer political cowardice. It's beyond enraging. It's murder. My friends on the front lines have to resuscitate 6 or 7 people a night, and most can only do the job for so long because they're so traumatized by watching people die in front of them night after night. And somehow, this is treated as normal. And no support for them when they feel used up and done. No help. In the cities, I know lots of people working multiple jobs to pay for nasty basement apartments where the landlords don't fix anything, and there's nothing they can do about it because there's nowhere for them to go. I know people who stayed for years in abusive relationships because there's nowhere for them to go. Because the government refuses to build the public social housing people need. And we musicians and artists are chased out of everywhere we go. Every week, another music venue or art space closes because of the never-ending pressure of Jeff Megg's condo glut. If the NDP ever intended to do good work, why on earth would they hire Vision Vancouver's Jeff Meggs, the chief author of our current housing and art space crisis, to be the Premier's chief of staff? That was a declaration of evil intent. And evil has been done to many, many people. I have friends being chased around by cops night after night because they're not supposed to be sleeping in their vehicle. But where the fuck are they supposed to sleep? Fuck the police. And I have friends in Surrey and other cities who work in Vancouver who have to spend outrageous amounts of money on transit that should be free to take 2 hours to get to work and 2 hours to get back. And the universally hated TransLink gives itself awards every year. Fuck TransLink. Nurses and doctors I know tell me that as Health Minister Adrian Dix relabels and rearranges inadequately funded services, what's really actually happening is that the healthcare system is being made ever more centralized, with more decision-making and power being given to the management types, who get paid big money to do fuck all except attend conferences where they learn useless buzzwords. And more work and responsibilities are pushed down on healthcare workers on the front line, who already do the lion's share of the real work, but now also must complete educational modules on overcoming burnout in the workplace that advise them to drink more water and do more yoga. But the fact is that healthcare workers burn out because they get tired of confronting the fact that they aren't allowed to properly take care of people. House them, keep them safe, nurture them, give them hope, the things these people signed up to do in their jobs. They can only patch people up and send them back out to suffer needlessly. Good luck surviving on welfare rates designed to kill. Burnout. My teenage son and his friends tell me that their clueless principals lecture them in school assemblies about the dangers of social media, how they should stay off their phones because their phones are making them anxious. Well, maybe these people should actually listen to what the kids have to say about what makes them anxious. Because here's what my son tells me, that they're anxious about having no reasonable expectations of a decent future. No job security, no housing security. They're going to be saddled with massive unpayable debt if they go to university to try to get ahead. Universities where only people who are in upper management or have tenure, the highest, get treated well, and everyone else gets treated like disposable garbage. And what's the point of trying to get ahead on a barren wasteland of a planet? It's not their phones that are making them anxious. So what are we going to do for these kids? Just tell them that the Liberals would be worse, so suck it up? That the Greens were right to prop up austerity and the doubling of our carbon output because it could be even worse? Is that our message to the youth? I marched with these anxious young people against the climate catastrophe with 200,000 in the streets of Vancouver, my hometown. And there they all were, full of hope and also outrage and frustration and how dare you? And no one to vote for. No one to vote for. I watched agog as these same politicians that are doubling down on fossil fuels and austerity effusively praised these kids who were literally begging for their lives. Is that the best we can do? Leaders like that? Were we made to be dominated by corporate power? Were we made to step over our fellow human beings in the street? Were we made to sigh and shrug when our friends, our relations tell us, I don't know how I'm going to pay the rent this month, and I don't know how I can deal with all this debt? When they say, well, I keep having to work more, but I'm so traumatized by what's happening at work that I don't know how much longer I can keep it up. Were we made to sigh and shrug when the scientists duly report again for 40 years that everything around us is fucking dying? People, I've got a question for you. Were we human beings made for despair? No, we were not made for that. We refuse to accept that as a point of human honor. We refuse this death cult that our society has become, that our political parties have become. So we have set out to do something. We don't know if it's going to work, but we're going to try. And when the bunch of us got together to collaborate on policy in every category, we set ourselves one question. What if we decided not to be assholes about everything? What if we acted like everyone, every person really mattered as much as Jimmy Pattison? What if we just did the right thing for a change, didn't throw people or nature under the bus? And as for the money to pay for doing the right thing, what if we just took away the wealth of obscenely rich people like Jimmy Pattison and Chip Wilson from Lululemon and the people whose boys go to St. George's? What if we took their wealth away to pay for doing the right thing like we used to? Millions of people want us to do the right thing. The people who lifted up Occupy Wall Street, Idle No More, Bernie Sanders, Gene Swanson, Autumn Pelletier, Greta Thunberg, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Jeremy Corbyn. Those eco-socialist movements are growing in other parts of the world. Why are we in Canada so far behind them? Why can't we do that here? We asked ourselves. So that's what we decided to do. Exactly. We reached out to Indigenous people, we reached out to the tenants' rights groups, environmental activists, the union activists, student activists, the disability rights activists, the small farmers, the queer and trans activists, sex workers, and we asked, what is the right thing to do, regardless of the so-called costs? And that's how we wrote the policy, as a collaboration. And that's how we're going to fix the policy as we move along. Yes, we're going to screw up. We're going to listen to people and apologize and take responsibility for our mistakes. And we're going to keep fixing our policies to make them always answer the question, what is the morally right thing to do if we really do value each and every person equally? Because what we want to make is an electoral funnel. A funnel to take all this rage and frustration and urgency and hope and pour it in a bottle, set it on fire, and huck it straight at the oh-so-complacent powers that be. If we can earn the support of enough of the people who are out there marching, we can shake this province and this country, and one day we're going to win. You watch. So that's what I think we're here to do. And if you agree, I challenge you to join us and fight for that together by going to our website, www.bcecosocialist.ca, and signing up as a member. It only costs $1. and then we'll take it from there. And then together, let's really build a better world, not just pretend we are while everything goes to shit. Let's raise welfare to a rate people can live decently on. Let's call off the war on drugs. Let's actually return land and power to Indigenous people. Let's stop all fossil fuel projects. Let's have a real Green New Deal with real jobs, not destroy the earth and buy a few electric cars to feel better about it and call that a climate policy. Let's give people universal dental care, child care, and pharmacare for everyone, and eliminate billionaires in this country in the process. Yeah. Those are the right things to do. And there's no good reason not to do those things, damn it. As I mentioned before, I'm a Jew. I'm part of a leftist Jewish tradition that reaches back to the Yiddish Bund and beyond for centuries. Jews are taught to never bow down or kneel to any ruler. Never. So I will leave you with the words of the great Rabbi Hillel. These words ring down with the same purpose as when they were first spoken thousands of years ago. These words I've been repeating to myself every day lately to give myself strength, and I share them with you. I've made a tune to sing them to, which I'll finish with. If I am not for myself, then who will be for me? If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I then? If I am only for myself, what am I then? And if not now, then when? Thanks for listening.
Well, I feel inspired now. Thank you, Jeff. That was amazing. I'd like to introduce Amrita Parmar now. She's an activist and a healthcare worker, and she's another member of our board for BC Ecosocialists, and she's going to read a statement on behalf of the rest of the board.
Hello everyone, thank you for being here. My name is Amrita Parmar. I've been selected from among the founding directors of the BC Ecosocialist Party to deliver a welcome message on our behalf. In 2017, an extraordinary event took place in our province. A government comprising 44 Green and NDP MLAs came to power on an ambitious platform to confront the interlocking crises of runaway climate change, rising inequality, and the alienation of rural and Indigenous land to powerful transnational corporations. After 16 years of corruption, corporate rule, austerity, and environmental degradation, there would finally be a government that served ordinary, decent people and kids. At last, a Canadian province was going to try out an eco-socialist government. Every member of the founding board of this party celebrated the night John Horgan was sworn in as premier. Many of us openly wept. Most of us had been working towards this our entire adult lives. Over the past 2 years, that government has revealed itself to be a fraud, a sham, a lie, another servant of oil companies and banks, whose policies are not arresting, but instead accelerating the extinction event our planet faces. This is a government that cannot find the money to implement $10 per day childcare during its mandate, but has found $250 million per year to subsidize fracking in the Peace region. Shame. A government that says they cannot afford commuter to rail to Chilliwack, but has found $6 billion to give transnational oil companies like Royal Dutch Shell to build the biggest carbon bomb in BC history. It is not simply that this government is permitting a criminal enterprise known as the global oil industry, with the debts of millions on its hands, to increase the scale of its operations in BC. This government is paying them to do it. And instead of the BC Green Party threatening to bring down the sham of a government at the next confidence vote for its abject betrayal and investment of public funds in this insanity, it is guaranteed the continuation of this government for the next 2 years in exchange for keeping the minimum wage below that of Alberta and for inviting Uber to congest our streets with a global pyramid scheme based on destroying workers' rights and wages for the benefit of the super rich. It's enough to make one lose hope for the political process, but we have not. All over the world, people's movements are rising up in the streets, on the roads, in schools, and instead installing a new generation of courageous representatives in legislatures and parliaments. We know that the thousands of British Columbians who took to the streets in our climate strikes and marches are part of that movement. We know that this province is bursting with people like us. People who want the eco-socialist government a clear majority of us voted for in 2017. British Columbians want to take back the public assets stolen by the criminal regime of the BC Liberals. We want our forests, our railways, our ferries, our farms. British Columbians want a Green New Deal that restores jobs with decent wages throughout all of BC, especially those regions whose forestry jobs have been ravaged by the consequences of climate change, raw log exports, and cut-and-run profiteering. There are railways to be rebuilt, geothermal energy to be developed, ecosystems to rebuild, fisheries to restore. There are billions of dollars to be spent remediating the destruction of our farmland, our forests, our lakes, and rivers to bring back fishing, hunting, trapping, and sawmill jobs that mine tailing, fracking, pollution, clear-cutting, and glyphosate spraying have all been destroyed. As we prepare for unstable growing seasons, flooding, and droughts that climate change is bringing, we need to be tearing up parking lots and golf courses to regain our food security. There is so much work to be done. We are such a wealthy place. British Columbians are ready to take back the wealth of the super rich and invested in getting us back to work, shoulder to shoulder, to face the losses and challenges that are coming. And we need to invest that money not just in infrastructure, but in the people that our government have written off. Talented and energetic people who are all around us, in all places. Some are living in tents. Some are living in the street. Some are trapped in jobs that make us feel awful, answering phones for pipeline companies to keep their kids in daycare. Some are mining coal or working rigs to avoid their families being crushed by debt, unemployment, and despair. Some people say we don't have the money for a Green New Deal to put people in work in meaningful, high-paying jobs, working to save this planet. But we do. It's just being wasted, hoarded, and stolen. Some people say we don't have the ideas, the people, the skills, the talent, but our population of 4 million people is rich in those things. We're being wasted, squandered. All BC is lacking to reclaim this land, reconcile with Indigenous people, and put our people to work in decent-paying jobs is the courage to name and confront and stand our ground against the authors of our misfortune, the real estate profiteers, the oil companies, the pharmaceutical industry, big banks, and telecom companies. We are not here to make a deal or a compromise with that crew. We are here to take back the money, the infrastructure, the land they have stolen from us. This is what British Columbians elected this government to do. We must now seek to replace them to get that job done. They have left us no other choice. It doesn't really matter whether it's a lack of courage, knowledge, or honor that prevents the government from doing this job. Whatever it is, they can't get it done. But someone has to, because the very survival of our planet is at stake. So as of today, we are opening the doors of a new political movement in this province. We will need the help of thousands of people to build local associations, recruit candidates, and expand our policy platform. The founding board of the Eco-Socialists are not putting ourselves forward as leaders. The leaders are already on our streets, in our schools, on blockade lines and picket lines. We are here to offer space, sport, and a rallying place for the local leaders of the global movement we see around the world, fighting climate change, colonialism, and austerity. Whoever you are, wherever you work, wherever you live, there is a place for you in the eco-socialist movement if you share a conviction that we must act with justice and we must act now. We are coming.
So I don't know if there's anybody who wants to ask. If there's anybody who wants to ask any questions or anything like that, and we've got to make sure that they're heard on the audio and stuff like that. I know that Derek O'Keefe from Ricochet is here, and anybody else from the press who wants to, or anybody who's just curious who wants to ask questions about the party. We're open for questions.
You said that you're wanting to hold space for people. What kind of opportunities will there be for people to join or to come and find out of the party? Where would they look for that kind of information?
Where would people look for the information to get involved? We'd like to get people to go to, can you tell them?
Our website, www.bcecosocialist.ca, or find us on Facebook at BC Ecosocialists. We really do want to encourage everyone to come forward. We've set membership at $1 so as to reduce the barriers to entry as much as possible. We want people to organize in their own regions. We want people to be candidates. Just come find us.
Any other questions?
Okay, I'm really motivated. I'm starving, fat, old, and angry. I'm done. I'm freaking done. But I am rough around the edges. I have virtually no education, formally speaking, lots of other kinds of education. I need coaching. I need practical supports like coaching and diplomacy lessons, how to be my angry, lovely self while still remaining slightly digestible. Is this a possibility for you guys to help me with?
Yeah, we really want people who don't think that running for office is for the likes of them to be running for us. Like we don't like the credentialism of the management class. We know there's talented, energetic, amazing people out there who are not getting a voice. And so we encourage you to come forward, and yeah, we can give you media training. We can give you like support. We can get you rolling and give you the skills you need, and it won't take you long either. I was really inspired by what Bernie Sanders said last month, where he said, I want you all to think about running for public office. You may not think you're good enough or smart enough, he said, but he said, I've been hanging out in the U.S. Senate, and believe me, you are smart enough, you know? Yeah.
Just I guess the two sort of arguments that'll be put forth, I'm sure, are that one, you're risking splitting the left-wing vote, quote unquote, or the green left vote, and two, that because the proportional or electoral reform referendum failed, that it'll be too hard to win any seats in the foreseeable future. What would you say to those two arguments, which are related, I guess?
Yeah, I'll take those arguments. First, we refute the idea that the NDP is a left-wing party anymore. They're not. they're not interested in changing society in a structural way. They're not interested in eliminating the ultra wealthy. Those are their friends now, people like Jimmy Pattison and all. So we just refute the idea that there is a left-wing vote to split. There's no party of the left for people to vote for. And the Greens, of course, assert that they are not left-wing. And they show it by opposing the hike in the minimum wage and opposing union organizing rights and stuff like that. This is John Horgan's buddy, you know, his rugby buddy. And then the whole idea of like, well, it's the voting system, so you can't get anything done or anything like that. It's just nonsense, because the power-oriented parties know that they squeak by in each riding with about 5% of the vote on average, give or take. So if we can get up to 5%, even that much is going to scare the hell out of them. They're going to start poaching our policies to try to neutralize us. But the fact is, this is a different political era than the 90s, that is where the NDP and the Greens playbook comes from. They're using the old, dilapidated, dog-eared, laminated 90s playbook about, oh, first past the post, don't split the vote, you know. Oh, and I would point out that all these people who are going to be saying don't split the vote were last week telling you all to vote with your heart. And they'll swing back and, right? They said, don't worry about strategic voting, that's bad. Vote with your heart. And then 5 seconds later, they'll be over telling us that we're splitting the vote. And then they'll flip back to it the other way in the next election, as if they don't even have any principles really at all to speak of, you know? Because they don't, you know? And then the other thing is to say, on the far right is not afraid of running people who say what they really mean, evil things, that pull the power-hungry parties over to their point of view to neutralize them. And you look, a perfect example is the Brexit Party that was founded in the spring. 3 weeks later, it was at 25% in the polls in the UK. 3 weeks after being founded. So if the right can see that there's work to be done on the fringes that can quickly come into the mainstream, why aren't the left doing the same thing? Why are we ceding that territory to the right, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's any good talking about getting 5% of the vote so that NDP or somebody steals your policies, because they will get into office and then they will lie to get into office. Surely you're working to actually be elected.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yes.
Yes, absolutely. And because of the way First Past the Post works, it's not that hard to find those margins. Like we're coming. We're coming for them. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Electoral reform is, of course, a major policy plank in our platform. Absolutely. We do not support First Past the Post at all. But the parties in power have repeatedly sabotaged any efforts at grassroots electoral reform.
You want to see?
Just one other.
Yeah.
You mentioned taking Jimmy Pattison's money away. The wealth tax that the NDP had was super popular in the federal election.
Yeah.
But it was pretty preliminary, let's say. Like,
Yeah.
do you have a percentage and a starting point for a BC wealth tax that you're proposing? Have you worked that out yet? Like, how much of Jimmy Pattison's money are we taking in the first year? Just
I don't have the number at my fingertips, but it is in the policy that's on the website. We do have a wealth tax we've written detailed policies for each and every government ministry and everything, and we're in the middle of revising them with the feedback we've gotten from activists and stuff. But basically, we want him to be like the poor guy to be down to his last million, you know? Like that's what we want it to be like. There's no moral reason for people like him to exist.
None.
Great, you're here.
Anybody else? Otherwise, we can just hang out, eat some donuts, and chat a little bit more. Yeah.
I don't really have a question. I just, I've run for office on the island since 2006 at every level on the civilian platform.
Okay.
As an independent. Tried to start a federal party myself. Total pain in the ass. Pardon the expression. But it's very difficult, and I'm a unifying centrist at heart, I guess. But what I would like to say is, according to the internet, anyway, 66% of people voted in the recent federal election. So that means a third, at least, of eligible voters are not participating. So, F, splitting the vote, and all this dichotomies of left and right, which really are meaningless in this current milieu. Let's mobilize the 50% or 30% or whatever percent of people that are not participating.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
that's what it's a grassroots effort, and let's get everybody involved.
Thanks everyone. Thanks so much for coming. Thanks to Kelly White for welcoming us to the space. And Anita Conrad and Leonard Newsmall. Thanks to Jordan Watkins on the video there.
Thanks, Jordan!
And let's have some donuts.
Let's have some